Veronica presents the conclusion of the AI Repertory Theater's production of Lorene on the Lam by Marie Elena Zuniga.
In a nutshell, the McClunes, Livy and Sammy, have told their story to Chief Purdy.
And Lorene's been arrested. Chief Purdy is about to give her the bad news. Chapter 69. The afternoon and evening had dragged on for Lorene until Purdy showed up unexpectedly and took her to his office.
I want you to know we've found out most of what happened that night in the cave, but you may not like it,
he said.
Go ahead. I seen and heard enough in my time.
He told her what Sammy and Livy had shared, but he seemed to be holding something back. Lorene could tell.
I don't know how to say this, but flat out, Lorene, it seems that Sammy shot, that he killed Nathan Johnson. Your dad. Seems Nate had a prison record.
Those words weighed heavy on Lorene. Her pa. She didn't even know who he was. As far as she was concerned, Nate Johnson was a stranger, but to hear that he was also a jailbird made her feel queasy. Had she inherited some gene thing that made her this way? She wanted to ask more about the man who had been her father, but Purdy continued.
Sorry, Lorene. There's more. Last week, a cave hunter found a body tucked way back in one of those passages. We're still trying to figure out who it is, but chances are good that it's your Grandpa Mac.
It was all too much for Lorene, who felt her blood rushing to her toes. She hadn't wanted to admit it, but all these years she had secretly hoped that her grandpa was still alive somewhere.
How do you know it's him?
Purdy shuffled his feet and looked down at them, and then up at her.
Found a photo of you when you were a kid in the wallet. Old Emily Watkins identified it. And the remains.
A feeling of emptiness and loneliness shot through her chest like a bullet.
I told you we'd give you some time for the funeral for your mama, Lorene. And we'll keep that promise. After that, I have to deliver you to the state police for transport back to Texas. Understand?
Lorene nodded, and Purdy accompanied her back to her cell. There she sat thinking about her grandpa, how she hadn't realized that deep inside her, a place she didn't ever go to or want to admit, she had hoped he hadn't died, that he was still waiting for her somewhere to tell her a good story. Her thoughts also went to her poor mama, hoping she was now with the angels. And the money in the cave. She thought of that too. It was still there. All of it. What was she going to do about that? Back in prison, she wouldn't be able to get to it. And even if she could, what would she do with all that money and all those jewels? Do the right thing, her grandpa had said. But what was that? Right now, she could tell Purdy about that case and what was in it. But was that the right thing? Maybe she could tell Emily to go fetch it, and Lorene could hire a good attorney so she could get out of prison for good. But Emily was an upstanding Christian woman and probably wouldn't go for that. Or she could tell Emily to give the cash to some poor folks in the county to help them out. It would be Lorene's chance to do some real good for others.
Grandpa, I don't know if you're living or dead, but wherever you are, I surely hope you can hear me. I'm a-praying to you. Please help me do right by this, whatever it is.
Chapter 70. The next morning, the light streamed in the cell window, the shadows of bars falling across Lorene's face. She had tossed and turned all night, waking at some points, sobbing about her dead mama and all the misery she had inflicted on her, thinking about Ace and hoping he was okay, but mostly wondering about her Grandpa Mac and what had happened to him. Had he really been murdered in that awful cave? And who had done it? She was still rousing when Purdy pounded on the jail bars.
Up and at 'em, Lorene. Seems like you're gonna be out longer than just for your mama's funeral.
She bolted up, trying to wipe the sleepiness from her eyes.
You've been bailed out. Come on. We'll clear up the paperwork and get you going.
Lorene wanted to ask who was bailing her out, but she was still groggy and had no idea. She followed Purdy to his office and found a woman sitting across from his desk. She stood up and straightened out her fancy cream-colored silk slacks and flower print blouse and gave Lorene a big, lipstick-red smile. "Fanny."
Told you that you done me a good deed in saving my life. I believe in paying back those who have helped me.
She said.
Now let's get this over because I'm going to talk to the governor's wife here in Tennessee. She's a good friend, and she and I need to talk to the governor about keeping you here and getting you to do community service work. Something else you should know. I'm also a good friend of the wife of the governor of Texas. And after I talk with her, like they say, you don't mess with Texas or me.
It took Lorene a few seconds to take it all in. Then she went up and hugged Fanny for a second time. Chapter 71. Out of jail for 2 days, Lorene had been invited by Fanny to stay with her at her fancy mansion in Leaper's Fork. But Lorene decided to stay at her mama's house, at least until the funeral was over. The service was being held at Smith's Chapel. The next morning was sunny and hot, with a hint of coolness from the shade trees that surrounded the white brick church. Not many folks were there, which made Lorene feel bad. Where were the people her mama had waited on all those years at the Donahoe? At least Emily was there, and Ace.
I hear you're on the mend, and it was just a flesh wound,
Lorene said to Ace in the back of the church, as the piano player filled the church with strains of In the Garden. He sidled up next to her, cradling his arm in a sling.
I was lucky, that's for sure.
Sorry, Ace. I never meant.
Aw, no need for apologies. All's well. Mind if I sit next to you in church?
Being the church was so empty and all, Lorene said yes. Emily sat on her other side. She craned her neck to see the pews behind her, filled with a few of the townspeople Lorene had once known but had forgotten about, as well as a few elderly gentlemen in overalls way in back of the church that she didn't recognize. She was happy to see at least some folks had turned out. She was surprised that more hadn't showed, given she was the ex-con prodigal daughter who had come back home and had made the news. Curiosity and boredom always had gotten the best of a small town. But now, seems like most folks just wanted to forget about her. And her ma. She knew Sammy would have been there if he hadn't been arrested and charged with murder. Poor feller. She reckoned his life had been no picnic, given his care for Livy his whole life. With her brother in jail, Livy had decided to return to the old family home. Seems her brother had put aside some money, which the police couldn't claim as stolen, for her to hire a companion of some kind. Emily said now that Gert was gone, she might be interested in the job. Pastor Thompson invited everyone to sing Amazing Grace, and when that was done, he began preaching on her mama's good heart. Yes, she may have been hard and stubborn, but she had to be that way to survive. God was all-forgiving, he said, and he quoted from the story Jesus told about throwing the first stone. Lorene reckoned she had been the reason for folks in town throwing those stones. The pastor assured everyone that Gertrude was in heaven and enjoying the company of the angels. Emily sobbed at points, composed herself, and would take to weeping again, dabbing her eyes with a lace hanky. Lorene sniffled, struggling to hold back tears, and at one point, Ace took her hand. Ripples went through her, comfort and arousal both, which made Lorene feel guilty, especially the last part, given it was her mama's funeral. After the burial, Emily invited them back to her house, where they had a decent meal of pork chops, collard greens, sweet potatoes, and biscuits with peach cobbler and sweet tea. Ace said he had to get back to the store and would be stopping by to see her in a few days to see how she was doing. He gave her a small peck on the cheek and forced a smile.
Now you stay out of trouble, Lorene. And don't do anything stupid until I come calling on you. Hear?
Lorene tried to return the smile, but the truth was, she wasn't holding out any great hopes on that. Why would Ace want to get involved with a criminal like her? She had put him through enough. Besides, she didn't know where she was going to end up living. Back here in Red Boiling Springs again? That would be an irony for sure, she thought, recalling Carmela's favorite saying that you always take yourself with you, no matter where you go. Lorene walked back to her mama's house, a heaviness sinking on her heart, and feeling more alone than she ever had in her life. She had no family left. No one. Now what? Would the governor commute her sentence, as Fanny had promised? And what was she going to do about that case in the cave? It had caused her grandpa enough misery over the years. She sure didn't want that hanging over her as it did over him. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Those words bounced in her head as she walked up the steps of her mama's house and sat on a rocker on the front porch. The late afternoon had turned hot and smothering, the katydids making a loud ruckus in the trees. Lorene took a deep breath. She knew what she had to do. She always had. She went inside and called Chief Purdy. Chapter 72. Returning the stolen bank money had been a good move on Lorene's part. She had finally done something right, not stupid, and giving it all back had turned around and helped her. Good karma, as Carmela might say. Seemed that Fanny had already contacted the governors of Tennessee and Texas about letting Lorene out on account of she had saved her life. But now that the money was finally put back, the whole thing of getting her released moved a lot faster. Within a week, the courts ordered Lorene a free woman, but she had to do some community service. She had been staying at her mama's house, still getting rid of things or giving them away, when Fanny called one evening.
How you been, girl?
Sorting through things. And my life.
I reckon you're feeling a little lost right now.
Lorene smiled inside. That's what Splat, who was now doing hard time, had told them way back on the bus ride, which seemed a zillion years ago. We're all lost in some ways now, aren't we?
I've got some things to tell you that might help.
Fanny continued.
Thought you might like to know they caught my low-life husband this morning.
What?
Yep, and here's the kicker. He was trying to get out of the United States into Mexico and was caught on the border at Laredo, on the bus you hijacked that just happened to break down at Border Patrol.
Lorene snorted and started laughing. She couldn't help it. All along she thought she was stupid, but here was old Josh. What was it Fanny had said? Dumber than a bag of nails. Trying to hightail it out of the USA on his own tour bus. Seems Hezzy never did get that engine working right. And maybe Carmela had been right about karma and all that metaphysical mumbo-jumbo.
I also decided that you have real talents that can be used.
Fanny said.
I told you that once, remember?
She did. But right now, Lorene was at a loss as to what Fanny saw in her.
Pack your bags. Tomorrow we're going to take a trip.
A trip?
Yes, sirree, Miss Lorene. Your pardon says you have to do some community service, and I got just the right thing for you. Remember that shelter I once volunteered at as a nurse in training? The one in Carthage? Well, I learned from the police that the 2 women on the bus with you are there now, and one of them, that Catholic sister, works at the shelter. I called the director the other day, and it seems she could use someone with your life experience.
The sad truth was, Lorene did know what it was like to deal with men who abused women. Maybe she could be of some use to these poor gals like Tilly. Tilly! She'd get to see her again. And the nun, too. Something powerful swelled in Lorene's heart that she couldn't rightly name.
Well, don't dawdle, gal. Get to packing.
Fanny said.
I'll come round in the morning to fetch you.
With that, Lorene hung up, still amazed. God had worked things out. Her grandpa had been right all along. Life may be rough at times, but God was always right there, helping. She was pondering all this when someone knocked on the door. She opened the ripped screen door to the front porch, the late evening sun making her squint. It was an old man, scrawny and gaunt. He was wearing faded overalls and a short-sleeved shirt. She thought she recognized him as one of the men she had seen in the back of the church at her mama's funeral service, but she couldn't rightly place him. He gave her a small smile.
Lorene.
His voice was high-pitched and broke when he said her name. She looked again and saw the familiar eyes, now moist, the upturned corners of the mouth, the whole essence of him. The reality sank into her soul like rain on hard earth. She broke down in sobs and fell into his open arms. No matter how much he tried to soothe her, she couldn't stop heaving tears and saying,
You're alive! You're alive!
I am that child. Now let's go sit and rock on the porch for a while. I have a story to tell you.
The story he told wasn't much more than she had already read in the letter. He did tell her that the bank robbery had been the folly of youth, and he had regretted it his entire life. Lorene could understand that, knowing how many stupid things she herself had done. He also told her that after the threats against her from his own son Nathan and Sammy, and then his own brother Lonnie, he decided the best thing would be to get out of town so Lorene wouldn't be hurt. He faked his death and then moved to Georgia.
I knew I couldn't come back or I'd be arrested for theft and murder.
Murder?
Lorene hung her head. Her grandpa had been a good man. What had happened?
Yes, child, murder. I killed my own brother. Just like Cain killed Abel. It was the worst thing I ever done in my life.
He grew quiet, and Lorene followed his gaze out to the woods, where the shadows of the evening were falling and lightning bugs were flitting in the tall grass in the front yard.
That day in the cave, my brother Lonnie was a-waitin' for me. Had no idea he was out of prison. Was as surprised to see me as I was to see him. He pointed a gun at me and demanded I show him where the case was hidden. I balked at first, and then he threatened to harm you, even kill you, if I didn't show him. I didn't have much choice. I found the case, gave it to him, and as he was busy opening it, looking at all that money, I caught him off guard. I rushed toward him to get the gun and we struggled. The case fell open, some of them jewels falling everywhere. I had the strangest feeling someone else was in there with us, and I didn't have time to pick up those stones or get caught. I fought long and hard to get that gun, and well, the next thing I knew...
He paused as if to gather courage.
What I did next, I'm not proud of, but I did it to protect you, child.
Lorene waited, her mind struggling to take it all in.
My brother Lonnie was dead. I knew I needed to get out of town now, not only because of the murder I had just done, but I knew Nathan was also after that case. I didn't put it past him to hurt you. Sammy was looking too, but I didn't think he'd do you any real harm. But I couldn't be sure. So I faked my own death. I put my clothes on Lonnie, stuck my wallet in one of the pockets, and shoved his body back in one of them narrow passageways of the cave. I wanted folks to believe it was me who was done murdered, although I'm sure the police would have caught on soon enough. I hear tell that that his body wasn't discovered until recently.
He stopped and cleared his throat.
The main thing, child, is that I wanted Sammy and Nathan to think I was dead, so you would be safe. So just to make sure, I left my cap at the edge of Big Gap Bluff. I wanted them and folks in these parts to believe I had run into some kind of foul play. A year later, I put an in memoriam in the newspaper about my own death and signed Lonnie's name. It was another way for folks to believe I had died, and for folks to believe that Lonnie was still living. Ain't proud of it, Lorene, but it's what I did.
He looked at Lorene, his eyes moist.
I tried to keep up with you, child, and I know you've seen some hard times. I'm sorry for that. But I knew that if I didn't leave, something bad might happen to you. I couldn't take that chance. I've been in town the last week or so, staying at the Thomas house, and went to your mama's funeral. Was standing way in the back and spotted you right away. Been working up the nerve to come see you. Then I learned all about what happened that night in the cave after I hid Lonnie's body. Heard about poor old Sammy hunting Livy in that cave and coming upon Nate and killing your...
His voice caught, and he continued in a broken voice.
I heard about Sammy shooting Nathan. We may have had our differences, but he was still my son. And your pa. I'm sorry, child.
Tears welled in his eyes. Lorene wanted to reach out to touch his hand, but she remembered her grandpa as a proud person. She waited. He looked off again into the distance.
I surely hoped that some of the good I taught you rubbed off.
I'm sorry, Grandpa. I know I done lots of wrong, but I'm trying to do better.
He said nothing for a long time and finally spoke.
I had to see you one last time.
Lorene stared at him, puzzled.
I'm dying, child. With what killed Gert. This is our farewell.
Lorene bolted up and faced him.
No, you can't be. I just found you again.
He stopped his gentle rocking and told her to sit back down. She did, tears streaming down her face.
Child, didn't I tell you years ago that this isn't our earthly home? Like the old gospel tune says, I'll fly away, and I'm gonna do just that. I'm going to fly away to a home on God's celestial shore.
A heavy quiet fell between them.
So, did you do the right thing?
He finally asked. Lorene took a deep breath.
I did. I returned the money.
Good. I was hoping that's what you'd do. And the key?
The key?
Lorene had forgotten all about the key that had been inside the case. She had tucked it away in the pages of the old family Bible upstairs in her mama's room.
I still have it. What's it for?
Her grandpa Mac had a curious look on his face and began rocking again.
Some money I put aside for you. It's money I earned fair and square. I saved up whatever I could before I took off. It's for you. In a safety deposit box at the First National Bank.
Her grandpa Mac smiled at her, and it was like comforting sunshine. He rested his weathered hand on hers. Her heart was full right now, with so many feelings. She didn't know what to do.
But what about you, Grandpa? They'll arrest you.
Can't throw a dying man in jail,
he said.
Besides, like I said, I made peace with my maker.
He got quiet and stopped rocking, staring her full in the eyes. She remembered that face the way it used to be, full of vigor and fight. Now it was creased and filled with the weariness of life. She had 100 questions for him, about what had happened to him since she had last seen him, and how he had survived. The questions could wait.
You'll be fine, granddaughter. I hear that Ace has turned into a fine man.
Lorene blushed.
Now we got most of the evening ahead of us. I thought you might like to hear a story about when I was a child and got lost inside Indian Cave. Would you like to hear it?
Something inside Lorene broke and birthed at the same time. She nodded and gave him a crooked smile. We hope you enjoyed the AIRT's production of Lorene on the Lam by Marie Elena Zuniga. For more stories, visit veronicapresents.com. You can help us grow our audience by rating and reviewing this show. Lorene on the Lam is available in print and ebook editions on Amazon.com. Thanks for listening.